Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back, friends. The sound of the slap was a sharp, sickening crack in the middle of the dinner party. My daughter froze, her small hand flying to her reddening cheek. The room fell silent for a single, suspended moment. Then came the laughter, soft at first, then rolling, unashamed. My mother-in-law stood over her, a half-empty plate in her hand. "You little brat," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "You're just as selfish as your father." The laughter swelled. My wife looked down, intently studying her napkin. No one moved, no one spoke. And in that moment, something inside me fractured. It wasn't a loud break, but a quiet, fundamental split, like glass giving way under immense, silent pressure. I stood. My movements were fluid, deliberate. I reached out, my hand tangling in my mother-in-law's perfectly coiffed hair, and pulled her close until my lips were at her ear. The laughter died instantly. "You should never have said that," I whispered. My voice was terrifyingly calm, the kind of calm that exists in the eye of a hurricane. The evening unraveled into a chorus of misunderstanding and overreaction. I played my part. I apologized publicly, calmly, respectfully. Rage, I have learned, is a dish best served not at all, but saved for the quiet of the kitchen. Later, as my daughter slept with a swollen cheek, I sat on the porch, watching the lights from my mother-in-law's house. They always seemed too bright, too false, a stage set for a play I never agreed to be in. "You're just as selfish as your father." The phrase was a needle, stuck on a broken record in my mind. The venom she used, it was personal. It was familiar. How could she speak of my daughter's father with such hatred unless she wasn't talking about me? That thought, once planted, took root. It grew thorns. Over the next week, I became a ghost in my own home, watching, listening. My wife avoided my eyes. My mother-in-law's nightly calls were hushed and tense. At dinner, my daughter asked, "Daddy, why doesn't Grandma like you?" My wife's smile was a brittle, fragile thing. "She's just old, sweetheart." Old and cruel and careless. I found the photograph in my wife's drawer, a picture I'd never seen. My daughter as a newborn, cradled by her mother and my mother-in-law. My wife's eyes were red-rimmed. My mother-in-law was smiling, not at the baby, but at someone behind the camera. I turned it over. A date. And a message in faint ink. "For you, Mom, we did it." The handwriting was my wife's. That night, I did a terrible, necessary thing. I swabbed the inside of my sleeping daughter's cheek. When the DNA report arrived, it was a single page of brutal clinical truth. Probability of paternity, 0%. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, the silence around me deep and surgical, carving away the life I thought I had. I called my wife. "Come home," I said, "and bring your mother." When they arrived, I slid the envelope across the table. My wife opened it, her face draining of all color. Her mother looked from her to me, confusion melting into pure terror. "You knew," I said, my voice still eerily calm. "Didn't you?" My wife's lips trembled. "It wasn't supposed to." "It never is," I finished for her. Her mother's voice cut in, sharp and defensive. "You wouldn't have taken care of them if you knew the truth." A faint, cold smile touched my lips. "No, but I took care of you long enough to find it." I didn't shout, I didn't threaten. I simply placed another set of documents on the table. The house deed, the bank statements, the divorce papers, all in my name, all already signed and notarized. "I moved everything 2 weeks ago," I explained. "Before I ordered the test, I just needed to see if my suspicion was worth confirming." My wife stared, frozen. Her mother's face was a mask of disbelief. You planned this." "Yes." I stood, gathered the papers into a neat stack, and turned toward the door. "My daughter stays with me. You two can go back to wherever you came from. But remember," I added, pausing at the threshold, "when you call her selfish, you're only describing yourselves." My wife broke into sobs. Her mother tried to speak, but I didn't turn back. I had already heard everything I needed to hear. The next morning, the house was quiet. My daughter sat at the table, eating the last cutlet. She looked up as I entered, a genuine, unafraid smile on her face. "Is Grandma coming back?" she asked. No, I said softly. She's not. She nodded, satisfied, and kept eating. I poured a cup of coffee and sat beside her. For the first time in years, the silence was a comfort, not a weight. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It burns away the weakness you once mistook for love. Outside, the morning sun was pale and cold against the window. And as my daughter laughed quietly to herself, I realized the last cutlet was never the problem. It was always about who believed they owned the plate.
Thanks for watching PastQuest. If you enjoyed the journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the past. See you in the next quest.